All right, so we've reestablished ourselves in a wind-free zone. So look, one of the things, you struck me as an intensely likable character as a consequence of what you revealed in your book. I mean, I kept thinking it would be a pleasure to spend time around this man, and I certainly saw no sign of arrogance in it. I thought I saw a lot of thankfulness, and a conscious thankfulness, and I think implicit thankfulness as well, and a lot of love for your family, your parents, and your current family, and gratitude for that as well. And also, one of the things that struck me too was your integrity and decision making with regards to your career. You talked about taking a break after being somewhat typecast in romantic comedies. I mean, very successfully typecast, and so there's nothing negative about that, but feeling that you had taken that as far as it could be taken,
yes,
productively and creatively, and then took a risk of really being bounced out of the system. I mean, one of the things I think that people perhaps don't understand about a society or a situation as intensely competitive as Hollywood is that it's virtually impossible to be successful there. And the probability that you'll fail, even if you are successful, is extremely high because the competition is beyond belief.
There's no help wanted signs.
No, definitely not. And so if you decide to do something like think, well, I've been successful in romantic comedies, but I don't want that anymore, you're throwing away something that's virtually impossible to attain. And then to imagine that you might recreate yourself in a different guise and be successful, it's a big risk. You see this often when actors fail to make the transition from television to the big screen. And that happens far more often than it doesn't happen, even if they have a very successful TV career. So all of that was extremely interesting. Now, okay, so you were out in the desert writing your book. How long did it take you to sort through all the material?
I went off into solitude 5 different times for 10 to 12 days apiece. The first trip out was to the desert for the first 12 days. And that was basically to see what I had. I came back from that feeling like I had something that was personal, that might be worthy of being between, two hardback covers. I remember writing early on going, okay, now you're going to have a lot of people that are going to buy this book, even if the words are crap on the page, because of who you are, McConaughey. And I said, you're going to have a lot of people who are not going to purchase this book, even if what you put on the page was awesome, because you're Matthew McConaughey. So I remember saying to myself, and one of the first things I wrote down, I was like, the words on the page need to be worthy of being put on the page if they were signed by anonymous, but at the same time need to be words that only Matthew McConaughey could have written. And that was sort of my little bubble going, because this is not about, you've read it, it's not about a celebrity book.
No, in fact, there's very little in it that's celebrity-like. I was actually struck by how infrequently you made reference to the milieu that you inhabited while you've been pursuing your career as an actor. There's no celebrity gossip in it. It's family centered and very intimate. I actually wanted, it left me wanting to know more about your career. And so we can also talk about that today, flesh that out. But so that was quite remarkable for, a celebrity memoir, let's say. It's a terrible way of phrasing it.
A memoir by someone who happens to be a celebrity.
Yeah. Well,
so,
it wasn't a celebrity memoir. It was an autobiographical meditation, I would say.
Okay, heard. I like that. So I went away. I came back the first 12 days. And I was like, okay, I think I got something. And then I'd come back, handle my honeydews at home, get everything back, make sure I didn't fall too much in the deficit of being a father and a husband back home. And then as soon as I could, head off again. I was fortunate to have a wife who was like, get out of here each time. When I came back, you could tell how, the first 12 days were like a purge. I mean, I came back and the whole family like saw me. I mean, I came back shedding tears. I had just sort of gone back and looked at 50 years of my life and had them down, and all of a sudden was crying. They were tears of joy of this love story that I was seeing, and to face certain things that I looked at in the past or forgot in the past or thought I forgot, but noticed that actually I'd remembered, it was a very earth shaking. My floor was moved in a good way.
Yeah, well, that's great that it was moved in a good way. I mean, that's a lovely thing to have happen to you when you're 50 and looking back.
Yes. And then 4 other trips. So 52 total days. I was in solitude. And then the next year and a half was basically editing it. And, I didn't have as many of the stories in there early, which I would say served as sort of the narrative backbone throughout that string the whole piece together.
Yeah.
And intermittently in there, I'll put a poem, a prescribe, a prayer, or something that will either call back. I looked at them like in movies, like they're a flashback or a flash forward. And can they, coming out of a story, tell the reader, oh, this is how I saw the situation that you just read? Or can it propel you into the next story? Because the stories are really more chronological, that take you from 4 years old to 50. And I didn't have as many of the stories in there. And so the next year and a half was going, okay, I've got these stories. My editors, I would tell them, she was like, oh, geez, you got to put that in there. And that's when it became, again, I was hesitant about the word memoir. I don't have a great relationship with the word memoir. The word memoir always seems like, good night, everybody. I'm heading off into the twilight of my career, the sun's setting, have a look. And I was like, I don't want any, because I need these stories to be active, because they are still active. And so telling them, as long as they had a vitality that they felt active, which they felt like they were. And then I had that thing that is so obvious when you say it, but it didn't feel obvious to me at the time, which was the more personal I got, the more I started to notice that it was probably more relatable. The more into the eye that I went, the subjective, the more I noticed that, it's actually more relatable to more of the human condition. And that was my hope.